is really good.
Morning, afternoon, evening. Welcome everybody to Spin Legal. Yeah, you see, I covered it all. Morning, afternoon, evening, night. Then anybody who's watching at whatever time of the day you are, there you go. No problem.
It's a red light on the snowball.
Red light on the snowball? There's always a red light on my snowball.
Oh,
And it
okay.
isn't the type of snowball that I can throw at anybody because
No, you can't have a snowball fight.
yeah, I can't have a snowball fight with this. Okay, so welcome to Spin Legal. This is episode 122 with Andrew and myself. And we've been doing something interesting. I heard a friend of mine go through and redo some of our videos. So take a look back at the live videos. We noticed actually there's a couple of times whereby Spin Legal got put into Talking Niagara and not Talking Niagara got put into Spin Legal. Sorry about that, folks. All right, so
He gets his shows mixed up.
yeah. Well, probably what was happening is I was clicking it in a rush and clicked it wrong. Okay. So this evening we know that the G7 conference is happening. So we're talking about the G7. So does it have any impact upon the law? Right. So let's think about that and let's discuss that tonight. So if you need to contact Invictus Legal, you can do so on 905-688-5598. Angela's email is angela@weareinvictus.legal and mine is peter@weareinvictus.legal and weareinvictus.legal is our website. So here's the question of the day. Is there anything really that the G-Summit gives us in terms of changes to law? The G7 is primarily a political forum. Right? And so the leaders kind of in there gangbang together, having cocktails and wine and making a few statements on this and that and the other. Now, that's not quite true. That's, it's not quite that way. What's going on, Angela?
Just trying to make sure I can hear you better.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah, because for some reason it's still underwater.
Oh, I don't know.
Like you're not swimming, but I can see it underwater.
It's probably my microphone that's not turned on. So audio, microphone. There you go, microphone. Snow. There we go. Snow.
Yes. Now I hear Peter.
Snowball's chance in hell. That's what it was. Snowball's chance in hell.
Yes, that's why I said your snowball. There is something going on with your snowball. Then you said you don't like that snowball because you can't get into a snowball fight with it.
Yeah, but there you go. Okay, so G7 is primarily a political forum, so that everybody knows, which is basically a chinwag of all the G7 members. And there were some suggestions of late that actually the G7 should become the G6 because of a person they don't particularly like. Some people don't particularly like.
Yeah,
but hey, no, we're not going there. We're not going there.
Same as G20 should evict a certain person from it to become the G19.
Well, yeah, and the thing is about that is that it seems to be a while since we've had a G20.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't go as frequently as the G7, do they?
No, the G7 is more frequent. They're more the Western type people.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the things that's got to be made clear is there's no treaty-making authority, no parliament, no power to directly change the laws of member nations. That means that the G7 is different to, for example, the European Union, or actually, it's different to the United Nations. But again, the United Nations has no direct power to change any laws of any member nation.
Yeah, they could pass conventions and different things. They would ask countries to become signatory. And even when countries become signatory, they can just still sit on their butts and not do anything about it. Like, think about the Human Rights Declaration.
Yeah.
People
Well,
with
that's
disabilities.
exactly
They
it.
don't have anything.
Yeah, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was signed originally, I think, by 148 different nations,
Mhm.
and only something in the region of 70 or 80 have actually ratified it.
Yep. And how about our country, which has identified and ratified the International Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities? And we still have people with disabilities who are second-class citizens.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's okay. So that's a fair question there. Okay.
Nobody from
So
the United Nations is going to come down wielding a bat and forcing governments to do something about any of these things.
yeah, and the same is true. As I said, the charter was signed by signed by 140 different nations. Now, all the nations we have on the planet today didn't exist back then in 1950, and some of the nations that existed back then no longer exist. So, but generally speaking, most countries have signed that charter through osmosis, I guess.
Yeah,
Right?
they didn't know what they were signing, maybe, or
Yeah.
they knew that what they were signing wouldn't be worth the papers it's written on.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on, legal challenges affecting business will still be acting through each member's country legislative or regulatory process. So, if they suggested a bright spark idea that would improve trade, for example, on the G7, our Parliament would have to discuss it, would have to create a law,
And we would have to pass our own law on it.
Yeah.
Same as the US, same as any other G7 country.
And yeah, and the same sort of thing. If you think about it, this is probably the way that things like email got enacted. International organizations like the G7 getting together and saying, Angela, we've heard of this thing called email. What do you think of it? Have you tried it? And they'd have a discussion like that in private, and then several nations. Do we recommend that businesses start to think about email? And I go, I'm in favor.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you might be saying, no, I'm opposed to that. Sorry.
I'm opposed to email. I'm opposed to technology. Okay, it's going to be your modern day Luddite. Luddite.
Yeah. Anyway, but it's not to, so that's how some of these things start with ideas up in the G7. That's not to say that necessarily the G7 is good, bad, or ugly. It's it just is what it is, right? And with any bill, any bill in any country is typically created by the idea of a person maybe going to their parliament, maybe going to their MP and saying, "Hey, we should do more about this." Right? Okay, so that said, G7 often influences future laws and regulations.
Yep, it would influence it and also create a culture so that if the countries kind of are in agreement with certain ideas or principles, and they're looking at things like internet, AI, different things like that.
Yeah.
Like, while they cannot pass regulations and laws on AI, but each country starts to think of it.
Yeah, exactly. So taking the point about AI is pretty damn new out there, and it actually is the topic of this year's discussion, believe it or not. One of the topics. But for example, they'd be talking about common things that maybe member nations have noticed about the advancement of AI in their local area. So that's why it becomes a topic of discussion. So the topics for this year, the first one on the list, ironically, is artificial intelligence and online security. So this is about nations talking together and saying, hey, we need to actually think about AI and online safety for lots of people. Now, there's currently a bill in our parliament in Canada that is talking precisely about that.
Mm-hmm.
Precisely about use of social media, use of artificial intelligence for children.
Yeah, and they're trying to come up with something where, like, Australia completely banned social media for kids under 16. And our country's not looking at a ban, but they're looking at the media, social media platforms to meet the regulations that our country passes. So as long as they have that and the safety measures are in place, then they can continue to market the children.
I oppose a ban, but I also think
how they're going to force it.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. And part of me says I oppose a ban because largely I think to myself, how the heck would they possibly enforce it?
Yeah, like I'll put a thing in there and say, yeah, I'm 61 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm there even though I'm 16. And I just reverse the digits.
Yeah, and exactly. And for example, right now, one of the things we don't have is any digital ID, and I'd be opposed to. I'm opposed to us having to carry around ID cards. I don't think it's a thing that we should have to do.
Digital ID, to some extent, maybe, but you'd have to be extremely careful how it's used, where it's stored, how the data is sorted, what data is collected, that sort of thing.
I'd be seriously worried about my digital ID being on here, for example, and granted that some of it's already on here, but if I went to China, I think I'd leave this at home.
Yeah, or even across the border in the States.
Yeah, well, I'm not so worried about the States, but I understand what you're saying. Mm-hmm. But if I went to China, for example, this is staying at home, absolutely staying at home. I'd be buying a burner phone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Nobody's going to be following. I'd give up social media for 3 weeks. You know what I mean? Artificial intelligence. If again, some of this. A question about artificial intelligence, it has been raised, funnily enough, by members of the artificial intelligence community. There's been a couple of AI developers that have been saying, hey, we need a 5-year pause on AI development.
Mm-hmm. Because they want to develop regulations to ensure its safety and to also ensure that artificial intelligence doesn't take everything over.
Yeah. And we also talked a while back. I seem to think we had a discussion a while back about Asimov's 3 laws of robotics, which I think also come into play here.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because basically, yes, the first law is that a robot or an AI may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. The second law is that they must obey the orders given by humans, except where such orders conflict with the first law. And the third law is that a robot must protect itself, and AI must protect its own existence, as long as such protection doesn't conflict with first and second laws. Right? Mm-hmm. And those are typical laws that actually I think we should be looking at for artificial intelligence.
Yep, exactly. There should always be humans in charge. And I think that even those humans that are in charge, there must be some regulations to govern those humans that are in charge.
Yes.
Just make sure that the humans that are in charge aren't just saying, oh, let's start a nuclear war.
Yeah. And for example, one of the conditions that I look at it is that AI cannot get out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the conditions, and it obeys the 3 laws of robotics. But if AI can't get out of the box, it can't do things that are unusual, that are not acceptable in human society.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? Right now, there's also a danger. They've been warning us within the 18 months from now that many of the entry-level jobs will be removed as a result of the AI. And these same people who are advocating this are saying that there should be some form of guaranteed income for people.
I don't see that that's going to be true, because even if I go and go and line up at the self-checkout, there are still just as many people who don't.
Yeah, I don't go to the self-checkout, not because I don't believe it should be there. It's just that I do that and I screw it up every time.
Okay. Well, exactly. There is that anyway. But again, you can go to a self-checkout person, and and you can kind of go, "Hey, I'm over here. I'm making a fool of myself again," and you go on there. Mary says, "Oh, that's Angela again. Yeah, I better get ready because she's going to be raising her hand in a minute."
Yeah. The only time I would go is if I just have one or two items, that kind of thing, like small numbers of items, because it's easy enough to know whether I screwed it up or not.
Well, my interesting one is, of course, beer. If I go through with a beer, I have to keep beer to the end. So you put beer at the side. Make sure you don't do the beer until you've got the beer and the discount items. Do them all at once.
Well, they have to do your identification check, don't they? They check to
Yeah.
see.
Oh, yeah. That's what I mean. You do your beer and your discount. You do your beer and your discount items all at the same time at the end.
Yeah.
At that point, they come check the ID, etc. Or usually what they're asking is when were you born, right? And sometimes they, I've seen the person put in. They don't even ask when I was born. They just put in their own date of birth.
Yeah, like I always laugh about that because they stopped asking for ID when I turned 27. I don't know what happened when I turned 27 because they stopped calling me Miss either. They started calling me ma'am.
My mother, actually, when she was pregnant with me at the age of 26, was still getting on buses for for kids' price. I don't know how come when she's got a belly out there that she's getting on a kids' price, but that's another matter. Okay, next topic of the G7 is international trade and economic security. Absolutely, this is an important point, and there's a certain gentleman there that needs to have get the wax out of your ears, both your ears, get it thoroughly undone, and listen, right? Because
listen to the other people.
Everybody's going to be talking about their problem because of what you have done, right? So, listen to that. International trade and economic security is important to the globe, and we've had too much insecurity in the last year.
Yeah, because somebody decides that he just wants to throw tariffs at everybody.
Yep. But this one, that international security, ironically, could lead into a lot of laws.
Yep, exactly. If they had things like, there is the World Trade Organization, which is something where it's some kind of oversight, right? And kind of a thing where people could, where countries could challenge certain things. And then there's the countries themselves where you would charter. Like people have challenged Donald Trump's tariffs successfully. Even the Supreme Court of the U.S. has decided that they weren't going to allow them.
Yeah.
And then what does he do? He backs off and starts making up other rules, to prevent other tariffs.
Yep.
And despite the fact some of these other tariffs require congressional approval, he doesn't care.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. So the next topic of the year is critical minerals and supply chains. Hey, this is something that really impacts Canada. Right, we've got like Doug Ford could tell you all about the Ring of Fire up north. Right, those supply chains, and he's doing what he can to get the supply chains open for the Ring of Fire. Right,
and also like right now, like it was a pretty powerful statement at that time when the U.S. was starting to do this. That Doug Ford was threatening to tariff electricities. Yes, so that they had to pay a 25% extra tariff on it.
I think we should charge them 25% extra anyway.
Yeah, to use our electricity because they have higher power rates than we do down there. And then we can charge an additional 25% and see how that works. And as soon as he said that, then somebody called him over here. Let's have a meeting.
The only thing was, of course, is that Dougie missed the day. It should have been Super Bowl Tuesday, Monday. It should have been Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, right in the middle of it. Right? And then people over here can like go and gather around him, where he shuts the power off. And I would pay to see it.
Okay, that's $1,000. That's $1,000 ticket right there and then.
And it goes into some fund or something, maybe to help us deal with the tariffs or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
So it'd be kind of funny just to see how that would work.
Oh no, I can see some people going for that ticket. You know, $1,000 goes to Doug
over there.
Yeah,
they'd love to see Doug Ford go click backstation.
Yeah. All right. The next one here is digital infrastructure and cybersecurity. I'd say that this cybersecurity is becoming quite an issue today. How we're seeing more and more scams out there, and there's probably, if your country hasn't already put in some form of digital infrastructure and cybersecurity legislation, then it's probably about to, or it's discussing it in Parliament or something of that nature. Right?
Because right now there's people from other countries, they got literal call centers that make megabucks, and the megabucks they get are from the people they scam.
Yeah,
that's how they do it. Right?
And
they do it like they're pretending to be somebody in distress overseas, or they do these romance scams, or they're investors scams, whatever they think is going to catch their victim.
Yeah, absolutely right, and I wouldn't mind betting that there's so many of those going on. You don't need to be collecting hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, $10 here, $100 there is often enough that they make those scams really float.
Yep, and the other thing too is some of these countries that may have nefarious purposes might use them for quasi-military purposes.
Or terrorism,
and then to get into the country's digital infrastructure to find out more about what the country's doing, their foreign policy, foreign secrets, all the different things that they plan. So they can really cause a lot of havoc. So there has to be a lot of protection around it.
Yeah.
You have to be like Fort Knox.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the question about that is that this digital infrastructure and cybersecurity, if you complain every time you get sent a text message with your PIN number on it, this is only opening the gate. Essentially, some of the new things that are coming along are pass keys that are going to require you to actually tap and use password control and tap on your phone, and a few things like that. I used to be up with all of those. I'm not anymore. Don't even know how to use a pass key. You know, they've been use a pass key. What the is that? I'm not going to touch it.
Is a pass key.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch it. I don't understand and don't have any knowledge about how it improves my life, and probably makes it 100 times worse.
Yeah, exactly. There has to be ways of doing things, and I'm sure people could set things up so that they're digitally safe.
Yeah. Okay, so the next topic of this year in the G7 is support for Ukraine and geopolitical stability. I note here it talks about Ukraine. It does not talk about resolution of the Iran war.
Yeah, the Iran war is something that Donald Trump had started, and he's trying to finish it, but he's not. I just don't think there's a lot of buy-in up there.
Well, there's a couple of things in terms of this that are quite important. One thing that I'm aware of is that right now, and they plan to have this up and running by before 2030. Mexico is doing a rail transit route across Mexico to take, so that ships dock on the Gulf of Mexico, they offload everything and reload it in the Pacific Ocean. Then the ship moves from the Pacific. It's going to be Panama number 2, because Panama Canal right now is insecure, and global warming is leaving it with low water levels.
Mm, yeah.
Right?
And this is something, unfortunately, that a lot of people don't want to recognize is the effect of climate change
Yeah.
and how that's going to impact
Well,
future issues.
and the other thing,
Wildfires, the cost of insurance, floods, and all this other stuff. And they don't realize that this is all connected.
well, the other thing about it is there's been discussion about Suez Canal number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Won't when I say Suez Canal, I don't literally mean that it will be at Suez, but some canal that runs from the from either preferably the Persian Gulf across to the Med, right?
Mm-hmm.
Although that's a heck of a long distance and would have to climb, so that would have problems climbing.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is that there's a second canal going to go through alongside the Bosphorus River in Turkey, so that the Black Sea transit to the Black Sea is going to be one of the top entry points into Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And that is actually going to be the new canal in Turkey is going to be ready next year, tail end of next year, right? So these are active things that are going on. And of course, with global warming, one of the issues about it is that you can now go across the North Pole, can't you? A lot easier.
Oh, yeah.
Northwest
They
passages.
can actually swim across the North Pole.
I don't know about that, but so geopolitical stability, I get it. Ukraine war is, still needs to be solved. And our friend down south doesn't seem to have done much about that.
Yeah, he's kind of like, why should we help Ukraine? They haven't done anything for me.
Okay, so what's our next one? And next one is about debt and international finance.
This is something that our own prime minister has a very strong background in, with respect to his running of the central banks of both Canada and England, and his background in economics.
Well, I actually was looking at this agenda and thinking to myself, wasn't this set by Mark Carney?
Oh, yeah. It sounds like his paw prints are all over it.
Yeah. And obviously it isn't, but there are certain things in there like this, debt and international finance.
Others have contributed, I'm sure, with some of the things that they have concerns.
Yeah. And it just happens to be one of these things that these list of things that make up the agenda has probably been under discussion by many of the politicians that will be attending anyway.
Yeah, let's just drop the U.S. Treasury bonds and see what Donald Trump will get upset.
Leave my friends down south alone, will you?
Yeah, that'll help her solve some of our debt and increase somebody else's problems.
No, you can't do that. We've got to have friends. We've got to shake across the river. Just don't shoot me when I'm walking down River Road, okay?
Oh yes, that's not a good place to go.
Well, it gives me nightmares sometimes when I drive down River Road and I think to myself, some American's going to shoot me.
Oh God, yeah. Well, I would say that most Americans are actually very much like us. They don't want.
I know.
They want to have.
And the thing is, to shoot me across the Niagara River, you're going to have to put the gun up at this kind of angle, right?
Yeah.
No, we can't shoot across the river like that, because it's just going to go straight down the ravine, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And land at the bottom. And hey, before you tell me I'm wrong, I'm not a gun. I'm not a gun aficionado, so I'm just telling you what I believe would be the case with guns. And if you believe different, that's fine. DM me, and I'll happily bow to your wisdom, because I'm not a gun person. All right.
Yeah, we lived with guns when we were up north, but when you're living in a city, there's no reason to have an AR-15 or six to go around. Like, you're not going duck hunting.
Exactly. Okay, so in terms of, do you look forward to this G7 with it having positive or negative outcome?
I'd like to see the outcome. I think I'd be curious to see how the different parties are discussing things and if they come up to any kind of consensus on things.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just kind of wondering how Trump will react to some of the discussion and how he would contribute, because there is a lot of issues there that Trump is very interested in discussing, but he may not be on the same plane as other members of the G7.
Well, yeah, and the thing is about that is there's nothing stopping five people discussing one topic and coming up with 5 different answers.
Yeah,
right?
That's happened before. I've seen where they've had things, even the World Economic Forum, which has a reputation for where they're going to control all the countries and they're going to make us all poor and nothing. Okay, where people think that somehow the World Economic Forum has all kinds of influence. Okay, which they don't have any more influence in that. No. They're just an international conference where world leaders and corporate people and people like Bill Gates will show up and talk about things of interest.
Well, actually, people that you're talking about that with World Economic Forum used to be at one point also, although I may be thinking about G20, it seems to be such a long time since we've had a G20 meeting, but it used to be that business leaders were invited to speak at some of these meetings.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, the business leaders tend to get invited to speak at the World Economic Forum and different places where they will talk about issues. Like they might talk about global inequality, and they'll bring people there who have different things, different ideas, or they'll talk about world trade issues. And somebody who's an expert on trade will come in and speak, or global stability. Okay. And I think that there will be a lot of things around artificial intelligence and that sort of thing. And it's important for people to get together and talk about these issues, because they usually attract people who are in a position of influence, although they're not going to go back to their countries and force people to they're not going to force people to go down to their countries and force people to pass legislation of any type. Okay? Because their countries are all different, and the people in their countries want to see different things, and they're hoping that they will try to be some influence and give people some information that they may not already have.
Yeah. At the end of the day, when you think about this, though, that the news media will come out of the G7 when it finishes, I think Thursday or Friday, and they'll be saying the G7 committed to X and Y and Z, right? In reality, what you've got is a nice little handshake and a nice patting each other on the back, and there's not really any commitment to anything. And Donald Trump can walk out of this and say, "Yeah, I told you we were going to get X, Y, and Z," and the other next leader comes around and says, "Yeah, I told you we would never agree to X, Y, and Z."
Yeah,
and they both be right.
Same, let's, like I said, Peter and I could sit down together, and I said, okay, now we can agree that we both like certain colors. Right? And Paulo come up and say, gee, Peter and I agree that we have these certain colors. Okay, so so what does that have to do with the price of pork?
Yeah. Well, it's all right so long as the colors that we can use, we have to change the company logo to pink and purple. Okay.
Oh yeah, those are Peter's. Because I was going to get him fit him with a purple suit.
Well, you wanted them all green and brown, didn't you?
No.
I'm joking with you anyway. All right.
I know.
But that kind of thing is where, if you look at what the G7 does, the G7's not really like our parliament at all. It's really a talking shop. And a lot of it is really there to spread ideas.
Yeah, and going to a G7, it's not like just the prime minister and just the president and just the prime minister of France and all these people who go to these things. They have a boatload of people with each of them, because they actually sit in these working groups and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And they work things out, and there's bureaucrats who would attend, like top level from Privy Council and
exactly
Minister's office. Yeah, in each country, the equivalent. And Trump would probably come with some of his cabinet ministers and high-level staff.
Well, what'll happen is you'll have a finance meeting there.
Yeah.
So all the finance ministers go off in a huddle, and they'll take their bureaucrats with them, their civil servants, etc.
Mm-hmm. And even maybe the leader of the Bank of Canada might be present. Who knows? Right?
Yeah.
There's different things that they would do in the U.S. The Fed, if they actually have somebody picked for that, because I think that the other one was no longer there.
Well, it's a nut. That's a U.S. issue.
Yeah, it's very interesting how we always see all these things when I read them, and I said, "Oh my God."
But for most Canadian firms, law firms, retailers, contractors, local services, providers, hairdressers, there's no legal impact at all about what the G7 was about. Hey, maybe you can do a G7 haircut. Sorry, I've got the perfect haircut.
Yep.
Well, cut the G7.
Yeah, it's like the sun will rise tomorrow and it'll set tomorrow night.
Yeah,
sun will rise the next day and it'll set the following night.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. Nothing else will change. Okay, but politicians will talk, and sometimes occasionally there'll be a good idea, but the thing is, in order to implement a good idea, there's got to be a lot of agreement. Okay, not just on the political or high level, but also on the parliamentary and to some extent the street level.
Yeah. All right. And one of the things, since we were just talking about a topic that's broad ranging, so if you need to contact Invictus Legal, you can do so at 905-688-5598. Email Angela with Angela@weareinvictus.legal, or myself with Peter@weareinvictus.legal, and weareinvictus.legal is our website. And I don't think this really applies very much today, but hey, we'll say it anyway.
Yeah, well, whatever you hear from today, and especially past episodes of this show or others, this is not legal advice. Okay, so I mean, if you don't like something about the G7, you can't come in here and say, "Okay, I want to sue them at the G7 because they said this." Right? No, because that's not really a legal issue. But if you need specific legal advice about something in your life, whether it's your job, whether it's your neighbors, whether it's something that happened with a contractor, just please contact a paralegal or a lawyer. We'd like you to come to us, but please contact a paralegal or a lawyer.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are plenty of good paralegals and lawyers out there. Make sure you find a good one, not a bad one.
Yeah, there's plenty of bad ones too.
That's unfortunately true. And that's for any profession that you might well be in. There's good engineers, there's bad engineers.
Yeah, like one engineer got charged and criminally corrupted at the crash of the Elgo Center Mall up in Elliott Lake.
Yeah,
because he was not performing his duties properly.
That's a long time ago.
Yep.
All right. Okay. So, well, thank you everybody for being here, and we'll see you again another time.
Yep.
So we're here every Tuesday, 6 p.m. and we'll be saying goodbye.
Okay.